This is something called vision focus. It's actually two things wrapped up into one. It's having a compelling vision for your future and learning how to focus. By the way, I left out something. Remember I said there's three things that people do when they have that belief about the world happens to them? The third one relates to focus. Okay, let me tell you what vision focus is, and I'll tell you exactly what the third thing from the last one was. Vision focus means, number one, is having a fully developed, fully integrated vision for your future. When I really spend time with people, I do longer seminars as well, I spend like hours on each person, like getting a vision for your future. On the back of the sheet, and I gave you the sheet here for a reason, look on the back, is a statement there about your vision. Okay? I want you to, because I don't have time, it's only a few hours here, I want to give you a lot of persuasion. I want to give you stuff you can use tomorrow in your businesses. That's what I'm really going to focus on, persuasions and marketing stuff and entrepreneurship. So I can't give you everything, there's only a few. I'd love to, I'd speak all freaking day, I love to speak, right? Quite tough, ready? My own best audience, right? I think I cracked myself up, okay? But anyway, tonight, I want you to go home and I want you to write this out, and please click to the next slide here. And these are some of the things that make up a fully integrated vision. It starts with how and where do I see myself in 5 years from now and why? What's my why? Now click to the next slide. These are some of the things that need to be in your vision for it to be empowering. Where am I living? Meaning, I want you to describe the house you're living at. I want you to see things. Remember I said see things better than they are? I want you to see it, describe it, to the point you can taste it, touch it, and feel it. Make it real in your own mind. Not because the freaking secret's going to attract it into your mailbox, because you're going to go out and take some fucking action and go get it. There's a difference. You understand? You ever see this thing with a magnet in science project? Get a big magnet, right? The horseshoe magnet. And the science teacher takes the magnet, right? And he has some iron filings. Over here, the iron, right? And the magnet's here and the iron's there. And what happens? Nothing. Right? Nothing. The secret would say the iron's going to plop up and go onto the magnet, right? That's what the secret would tell you. But here's the way it works. You move in the direction of what you want, and when you get close enough, you attract. That's the law of attraction when it really works. You have to move towards the things you want to attract, and then, yes, when you get close enough, you attract them. Does that make sense? Yeah. Vision focus. So vision means have a compelling vision. Where are you living? What's your work? What's your business look like? Or if you're a salesperson, you're a top producer, whatever it might be. If you're working in a company, how high have you climbed up the chain? Okay? Who are those that you love, and what's your relationship like, and how has this empowered them? Have you secured your kids' education? Have you gotten a bigger home? Have you been able to send someone to, if they were sick, to the hospital? Whatever it might be. Have you retired your parents? I retired my parents. It was the best thing I ever did in my life. When it was all said and done, and I was in jail, I said, well, at least my parents are set. I had that going for me, which was nice, okay? Next, what are your kids doing? What's your wife doing? Is your wife empowered? If you're, and I say, it's generic, really, could be a wife saying to the husband, but both, everyone's in the workplace these days, there's no, it's not gender specific. What charities do you give to? What charities are you involved with? What boards do you sit on? This is a real vision that can actually make you pop up out of bed in the morning when you don't feel like it. What vacations are you going to take? And because we're going to really dig into influence today and persuasion, just so you know, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, and even in your own life, people will never follow you because you have a goal. People don't follow goals. They follow vision. Every human being is thirsty for a vision. And so few human beings have one. So what do? They gravitate towards someone with a compelling vision. As an entrepreneur, as a business owner, even as a leader in your family, whatever unit, you have to be a visionary. I don't mean like, oh, I'm not a visionary, it's Steve Jobs. I don't fucking talk about inventing the iPhone. I'm talking about in your own life. It can be big, small, but it's got to be compelling and exciting. And then with persuasion, we learn how to share that vision with other people in a way that moves them to want to be a part of it. That's how an entrepreneur becomes a world-class entrepreneur. You must move past goals. You want to have goals. Those are benchmarks along the way. But on top of it is your vision. And that's what drives everybody. Does that make sense? Yes? So tonight, I want you to do this, okay? I want you to go out there and write down this vision and talk about those things. And focus now. When I talk about focus, and here's the deal. There are some universal laws here that are not woo-woo, but here's one. Where I focus on, I move towards. We move in the direction of what we focus on. You're gonna, if you look to it, you're gonna go there. So what happens with a lot of people, now here's what I said about blaming, the people who blame to justify, right? The people who think the world happens to them, they blame, they justify, and the third thing they do is they complain. And when they complain, when you complain, if you're a complainer, what are you doing? You're focusing on everything that's wrong in your life. You're focusing on all the shit of your life. And guess what happens? You become a giant shit magnet. You attract shit. That's what Paul, you're like, oh, this is shit, just stop focusing on it. Stop focusing on where you want to go. So you have a vision and you train yourself to focus on it. And it's not so easy. Because you're walking along and you're doing everything right in your life and you're making headway, and all of a sudden, bam, you get hit in the head with a lump of shit. Shit happens. Right? Sometimes it's self-inflicted, like with myself. I caused myself pain by making some mistakes, ethical mistakes, and I found myself in that position where, boom, I got hit between the eyes with it. But this is the point in time when people start telling themselves that story, when they get hit with the shit, they start making sense of it all. And that story ends up becoming their narrative of their life, and they're disempowered. You want to learn to focus on where you want to go versus what you're afraid of. However, there's a higher level of this, which I'm going to get to later. It's called bifurcated focus. We're going to discuss that later when we get into more of the lessons. Okay? So this is your vision focus. Now, go to your score sheet and give yourself a score. If you have a fully integrated, developed vision that inspires you, and that inspires other people, and you're one of these people that knows how to focus on where you want to go versus what you're afraid of, give yourself a 10 or 9. If you're lacking a vision, if you're a serial goal setter, or you didn't set goals at all, and you tend to blame and justify, complain, hey, it's okay, you can break these things, but just be honest, because if you're not honest, here's what's going to happen. You'll keep telling the same story. Now, what I say today, it's not going to help you. So give yourself a score. I'll give you 30 seconds or so. Think about it. Some people think selling's evil. My parents did. We'll get to that later. Fucking character in the movie, right? My father. But they thought selling was evil. Selling is everything in life. Either you're selling or you're failing. You're selling people that your ideas make sense, your concepts, your products make sense. You're selling your kids to make their beds, do their homeworks. Doesn't matter what you do, what kind of work you're in, you're always trying to convey your thoughts and your ideas in a way that connects with another human being, empowers them, but also gets you what you want to. That's what ethical sales and persuasion is all about. And I have to say, I go around the world, people come up to me all the time, in airports and in restaurants, and they all want to do business with me. But guess what? 95% of them never actually ask me to do business. They dance around it because they're not closers. It's the single most important skill you can ever master, the ability to close the deal. The second distinction on the inner game, something you have to master if you want to succeed, what's called your belief systems, the beliefs that you have. And we have certain beliefs that lead us to massive success. Those are called the empowering beliefs. And then we have what's called limiting beliefs that lead us to misery and failure. Imagine a limiting belief. And here's the deal. We're all held down by our lowest level limiting belief. It stops you from charging forward when you should, causes you to pull back when you shouldn't. Let me give you a metaphor here. Imagine a Ferrari. Sleek, red chassis, beautiful, 450 horsepower, 12 cylinders, 4 valves per, capable of going 230 miles an hour. But if there's a governor on the engine stopping the flow of gas, I don't care how fast it could go, it's not going over 55. That's what a limiting belief does. It sits there and it festers just below the surface, and it stops you from being all you can be. It limits you. And guess what? We all have them, including me. We all have them. If you don't think you have any, guess what? You've just found your first limiting belief. I don't have any limiting beliefs. Everyone has them. Now, we can be judged just so when I really spend time with someone and I can dig into their belief systems, it's almost a barometer for how much money they have, by the way, because it actually relates to everything else. People with limiting beliefs never even try to learn this stuff. They live in a box, and the box gets smaller, and it gets smaller, and it gets smaller, because every time you take an action and you get a result, that result creates a belief. If the result's a positive result, you get a belief, oh, I'm good at this, let me do it more. It's a cycle of beliefs. Conversely, if you get a negative result, you're like, ah, shit, I'm not good. Next time you try, what do? You're like, you don't really try. You just dip your toe in the water. Yes, does that make sense to everybody? Yeah. These beliefs, okay, unless you root them out, put some beliefs up here. Here's 5 beliefs, just examples here, there's more, that are limiting beliefs about money. If I get rich, I'll become greedy. When I hear someone tell me that, guess what I say? Oh, so you're broke? They're like, how'd you know? I'm like, I'm a fucking mind reader, okay? Someone who's got that belief doesn't have any money, okay? I'm not good with money, same thing. I'm not entrepreneur material. That's an interesting one, which means a lot to me personally. When I tell you my own story, and we get into some real learnings here, you'll see how that affected me. After that, still keep going back. Next, okay? Selling is evil. It's what my parents had. Let me just talk about my parents. My parents are the greatest. They're still alive. Incredibly intelligent, hardworking, educated with multiple degrees, and broke their entire lives. Never had money. Why? Because they were saddled with these limiting beliefs. One of them was selling is evil. My parents truly thought that selling was a terrible thing. When the fuller, you know the fuller brush guy here, or like the nautical guy, when the guy would come to my house, guess what happened? The fucking shotgun came out. My father wanted to kill the guy, okay? For interrupting his TV show. Like, fucking pass off the guy, right? My parents hated salespeople. My parents also never wanted to take action. They were risk averse. They had a depression-era mentality. They never, to this day, and my father's rich because of me, I made them rich. Because my dad worked for me, as you know, in the movie, but my parents never bought a home. They still rent. Check this out. They still rent the same 2-bedroom apartment that I was born in. They never moved. When I go back, it's like the fucking Wonder Years. You know the show? It's like 1958. I can't even believe it, okay? It's their beliefs that held them back. And the most toxic belief of all, okay, well, here's what I have to sell. I have to sacrifice everything for hard work. Completely not true. Yes, when you want to get rich, you got to work your ass off, but not forever. And you're doing it for yourself. And lastly, here's the one that's the killer. The world happens to me. This is a telltale sign of a person that's really disempowered. They think they're creatures of circumstance. And there are 3 things that you typically do when you believe the world happens to you, versus the empowered belief, which is I create my own destiny. I make my own way. Everyone get that? They're very opposite. So the person who believes the world happens to me, there's typically 3 things he does. Number 1, he constantly is playing the blame game. Blame, blame, blame. They blame everybody. The government, the economy, the bastards on Wall Street, the price of gold. Steaks cost too much in the store. Shampoos do it. They blame everybody but who? Yeah. They blame everybody but themselves. And because of that, guess what happens? They never get honest. And when you get honest, you can't succeed because you don't have a starting point. That's the first thing. The second thing they do is they justify. They justify everything that's going wrong in life. They'll say, money doesn't really matter. I can live on low alone. Like, oh, really? Next time you want to pay the rent, go to the bank and deposit up. See what they say. Loony bin, right? Money matters. Money is a wonderful, beautiful thing, and it's incredibly important. It's the most important thing in the world for only a couple of things. Like paying your rent, food, shelter. That's what you need money for. After that, it doesn't matter the basics to secure yourself and your family. And then you go on to the higher levels of giving and commitment. But without money, I mean, it's the greatest problem solver in the world. The movie was a great line where it goes, I've been rich and I've been poor and I choose rich every time. Because at least when I'm rich, I get to show off my problems in style. You don't? I gave you that line, right? I would say it all the time to my guys, my kids would urge me. I'd say, you're not going to stop having problems when you have money. In fact, your problems might get bigger, but you get bigger. And you grow into them, you can handle it. And at least you get to show up in the back of a limousine with a gold watch and a nice suit, it feels better, right? So those sort of limiting beliefs is true, all right? And that cycle of beliefs that holds people back into this self-vicious cycle, give yourself a score based on how you really feel. And this one, give yourself a minute here to really search back and think about the times that you were nervous and felt disempowered, and be honest. If you have, I'm sure a lot of you, the entrepreneurs, you have a lot of really empowering beliefs, which is why you're in business. Okay? And even the salespeople, it doesn't really matter who you are, but just be honest with yourself. If you have a lot of limiting beliefs, give yourself a 1 or a 2 or 3. If you have great beliefs for making money and success, give yourself a 10. Take about 30 seconds to a minute to do that. Okay? Now let's move on to number 4 here in the inner world, which is called your standards or your thermostat. Let me explain to you what this means. Standards or thermostat. This is your actual long-term indicator of success. Your standard, meaning, imagine a thermostat in a house, and it's set to 75 degrees. Well, guess what happens? When the house drops below 75, the boiler kicks in, heats it back up. When it goes too high, the boiler shuts off. We have a standard, a thermostat set point for money. There's a certain amount of money that in your heart of hearts you believe you need to have to be happy. It's called your must for money. I must make this amount of money. And you have a standard for relationships. I must be in this sort of empowered relationship. I must be this close. We have standards for religion. We have standards for our body. I'm not going to let myself get 40 pounds overweight. So what if your standard is to stay in shape? What do? As soon as you get 3 pounds overweight, you go to the what? The gym. Or you watch what you eat. We have standards for everything. When I first started my brokerage firm, and I was employing all those young kids, and I'll get to that later, they had low standards. They didn't have high standards. They thought they were going to end up working in 7-Elevens, these kids. They didn't come from wealthy families. They were the downtrodden. There were no members of the Lucky Sperm Club in my group, okay? You get it? They were never told they were capable of greatness. They were like, shit, if this guy can show me how to make 80 grand, whew, I'm set. And I was like, well, I better raise their standards. So I went about actively every single day, day in, day out. I would give 2 meetings per day, an hour in the morning and an hour and a half in the evening. And not only was I teaching them how to close, entrepreneurship skills, they were all running their own businesses, even my business, making them into expert salespeople, I was also working on the inner game. I had them making visions. I had them raising their standards. And some of the things from the movie, there's some funny lines there that they took straight out of the book where Leo is saying, you know, he looks at the audience, the kids there, and he's giving the Steve Madden speech, and he says, if you don't like what I'm saying, then get the fuck out of here and go work at McDonald's. Before you leave, take a good look at the person sitting to your left. Remember that speech he gives? In the not-so-distant future, you're going to pull up to a red light, and this guy will be sitting next to you in a beautiful red Porsche with a beautiful woman. And who'll be next to you? Some fat wildebeest with 3 days of rapes. In a sleeveless moo-moo with discount gross from the Price Club. Right? I said, and that's by the way, that's a verbatim speech I would give. And I'd say even more. You'll be sitting, and by the way, you think you're going to rely on Social Security? It'll be enough to pay for your diapers when you're in a nursing home. You'll be there with some fat Jamaican nurse bitch slapping you when she's in a bad mood, and she feeds you soup through a straw. That's what's going to happen to you if you don't get rich. Now, I've learned to do it more elegantly in my later years. But they were kids, and I knew what their greatest fears were. See, by tapping into those fears that they had, it was motivating. That's motivation at a very deep level. Everyone get that? That's what I was actually doing. But what I was also doing is I was raising their standards. I would say that if you don't make 300 grand your first year here, you're weak and worthless. You're like, what? I thought I could make 80,000 and be happy. I'm like, Now, if I say that to you once today, and I'm not telling you how much you have to make, here's the thing. A standard is personal to you. It's not, there's no right or wrong number for a standard. The standard has to fit into your vision. There's got to be agreement between those two. If there's dissonance, in other words, someone's got a standard, they want to live in a big house and have a great family and do this, they want to make 90 grand a year, good fucking luck. It doesn't add up, so there's dissonance. Everyone understand that? Yes? So there's not, I'm not telling you what number to write, but if you don't have high standards that match where you want to be in life, I don't want to work, it's not going to happen. So give yourself a score. Right now, if you have high standards, you hold yourself to a high level, give yourself a 9 or a 10. If you have low standards, what's a low standard? I'll give you an example of someone with a low standard. The second their boss turns their back, they stop working. If there's 4 people lifting up a table, you're like, why is this fucking table so heavy? Because the person low standards is holding it. Oh, they got it. That's low standards. It's true. High standards, they do it no matter what. It's internal. Give yourself a score. Low standards gives you a 0 or a 1, and so forth. Those 4 things make up essentially the crux of the inner game of success. These are the things that trip people up and undermine them before they ever go out into the world and take action. And they have to be addressed. Because I don't care there's probably no one more qualified to teach you this stuff than me. There's a lot of people that teach that stuff. But without this stuff, it's worthless. Because then you're just like, I'm the best, but you don't know how to be the best, okay? Sales on one side of the equation, sales, and you got marketing on the other side. And I'll tell you the difference. We'll get to this in more detail. Marketing is the process by which you bring people into your sales funnel. And then sales is what actually slams them shut and brings the money in the door. Marketing on one side, sales on the other. You could have the greatest marketing campaign in the world. But if there's no clothes attached, there's no one you put out into the world where they're going to buy and get clothes, good luck trying to make money. You have a sales funnel, you spend a lot of money you can't convert. Conversely, you do have sales that you can actually make money in sales without any marketing at all. But it's really, really hard. It's not elegant. And you got people out there cold calling, and it's a constant grind. At the highest level, when we're running our businesses the right way, when we're thinking about how to structure and plan a business, what you want to have is a kick-ass marketing campaign. And nowadays, it's got to be both offline and online, right? Offline and online, which brings in the right people into your sales funnel, so then bam, you can slam them shut. And then you combine that with actually knowing the rules of business, right? Understanding the rules of business. And what it really means is this. At the core of business is monetizing value. You have something that has value. You want to deliver that value to people. Well, understanding the rules of business, of overhead, of shipping, of all logistics, it allows you to monetize that value so you get paid for your value. When I was very young, I thought business was just about making money. It's not. It's the end product of delivering value. Does that make sense? Yes?
Yes.
Okay? Let's talk about what these scores mean. Let me ask you a question. How many people here scored between 90 and 100? Raise your hand. 1, 2. Any more? Rick, stand up if you scored 90 to 100. Rick, stand up. Don't be embarrassed. Stand up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, that's good. Just stay standing, please, because you deserve. Give him a round of applause, by the way. A lot of fucking hard work that went to that, I think, right? Any of you guys not work hard? You all work hard. Okay, stand up please, I'll tell you what to say. These people are called magicians. They're magicians. Let me tell you the characteristics of a magician. A magician seems to conjure up success out of thin air. He's always in the right place at the right time. He makes shit happen. He's a mover and a shaker. He's a visionary. He has massive money. He takes action like that. They take action. They don't think about stuff. They believe in their own ability to make a quick decision. That's the definition of these people. That's how they operate. They move through the world. They're the world's visionaries, the leaders. They build big business, and it seems like they're magicians. Okay? Give them another round of applause. Okay? Here are some of their beliefs. Put up their beliefs. These are the core beliefs of a magician. I am a master of my own destiny. Magicians, true or true? Yes? Yes, right? You're a master of your own destiny. You don't believe the world happens to you, right? I must play to win, not to not lose. True or false? True? Yes, you play to win. They don't play defense, they play offense. No one wins in life playing defense. But they know the rules how to minimize, so it's okay. They understand that success requires constant and never-ending improvement, which is why they're here. They know a lot, they know almost everything. They say, I want to know more. If I can learn one thing, it's worth probably $1 million. Or worth one thing, God knows what I'll make. They always are improving. You never know everything. You know what I mean? 7 hours, I pretended in my, I never stop learning. I'm reading, I'm growing, I'm reading magazines, because you gotta know this stuff, okay? And they take advantage of opportunity. They're always looking around. Now here is where we get to this thing called bifurcated focus. Okay? And let me use a very important lesson for business. Bifurcated focus means that you have a vision for your future. This compelling, this unbelievably compelling vision for your future, which is right here. And this is where you are right now, your current location, and your laser-guided vision, but you're constantly scanning the horizon for other opportunities. They look to the vision. They're not looking at what's wrong, but they're not so laser guided that they don't see the opportunities that are all over here. There are opportunities everywhere, and let me just tell you this, I bet you every single one of them made their big money, not how they originally thought they'd make it. It was probably they had an idea, am I right? And something happened, they're all nodding their heads. They're all saying, yep, exactly. And they saw some other opportunities. They took a shot. They were wrong a couple of times, but once they're at boom. You know there's only one way to get rich. You know how? Quick. You gotta get rich quick in this world. I'm not talking about a get rich quick scheme, though. That's not what I mean. What I'm saying is you work and you work and you work, and you're not getting the result. And you work and you work and you work, you're not getting the result. But what you're doing is you're lining up these elements. You're getting it all together. When you finally hit it, boom, the money pours in hard and fast. When people make money, they have this magic moment where the window just opens up and it all just starts to work and pour on. And before that, it was almost like they were banging their heads against the wall. And they weren't making the progress they wanted. Every time I hit it big, it was always before that, I felt like I couldn't quite get that last bit of distinction, and boom, the money poured in. Every single time. Here's the trap that most people fall into. Now let me go to the next category, which is probably where a lot of you are. And just so you know, I'm not one of these positive thinking guys. I don't really believe in just positive things for the sake. You don't look in your mirror and say, I got everything it takes, I got everything it takes, I got everything it takes. Right? No bullshit, right? You don't have everything it takes, and if you try to go out there feeling that way, you're gonna get pain. There's things you gotta know. And also, just to put it out of the way, you know, there's a book called The Secret. Who knows the secret? This book drives me fucking crazy because it has it's got some really good stuff in it, The Secret. Let me just get a sip of Gatorade here, because I have to do something important. I gotta meditate for a few seconds here for The Secret. Say The Secret. But The Secret drives me crazy. You know why? Because it addresses part of the equation of success, but it kind of misleads a lot of people. And it's almost like the opium for the average person not to take action. Here's what The Secret tells you to do. You want to get rich? It's very simple. I gotta sit for this one, because I gotta meditate. So, here's the secret. Ready? They say, you want to be rich, very simple. Go into your couch and you draw the shades so it's nice and quiet. They're quiet, right? And I want you to think about a $50,000 check arriving in your mailbox. And I want you to attract that check. And just think of it, you really gotta think about it. You gotta attract the check into your life. You think about it, you attract the check, and you put it out to the ether, and attract that check, and sure enough, the check is gonna show up in your mailbox. What a bunch of shit that is, right? If that's your strategy for success, it's true, right? If that's your strategy for success, the only thing that will show up in your mailbox is a fucking eviction notice. Your wife's banging the next door neighbor, you're towing about your car, and you're looking at her, I got everything it takes, I got everything it takes. Right? So I believe in being smart and intelligent, and here's the bottom line. I want to get into it right now, what it really is. It's really about seeing your life as it is right now, seeing things as they are in your life, not getting honest. Seeing things as they are, but not worse than they are. That's what a lot of people do. They actually, when they take an inventory, they see things worse than they are, and they tell themselves a story, and it's mostly a bullshit story. They tell themselves this bullshit story about why they can't get what they want in life. And it's that story, that narrative they tell themselves that stops them from getting what they want. That's what happens. People see things worse than they are. Imagine this. Look at me today, okay, as a navigation system in an automobile. We all have this computerized navigation. And the software these days is fucking really powerful, right? You're gonna plug in where you are, and you plug in where you want to go, and the navigation system will take you there. Because it's got it all shit figured out, right? It knows exactly what to do. But guess what? If you plug in the wrong location that you're at, or don't give it a clear destination, you'll end up in fucking Tibet. Who knows where you'll end up? You'll end up not where you want to go. So the point is this. If you want to be successful, it's really, really simple at the core level. You got to see things as they are in your life, get honest, not worse than they are, and then see things better than they are, and develop a strategy to get there. And that's your goal, your destination, your vision for the future. Your big V, the vision for the future. Does that make sense? So, those are the 8 core ways. Now we have 2 bonus questions here, because they relate so much to people achieving. Put the questions with the bonus questions. Okay, number 1, and I spoke about this many times, do you know how to raise money? If you're good at this, and I've already explained what it is, if you understand OPM and how to raise it in the right way, give yourself a 10. If you have no idea how to raise money, if you've been held back, can I ask everyone an honest question? Who here has had an idea, and in the past they've just been held back because of lack of money? Raise your hand. Anybody? A lot of people, right? It's true. Nothing wrong. That's the way it is. Most people don't understand how easy it is to raise money for their ideas. So based on how you feel about this, give yourself a score. And again, be honest. And then the next question, number 10, is, do you understand the power of modeling and mentorship? Let me explain modeling. Modeling, I'm a serial modeler, meaning anytime I am looking to start a business or to take a specific set of actions, I look to see someone who's already doing it well and try to copy them. I try to model. People say to me, how did you learn to write this book when you're only a writer? I modeled Tom Wolfe and Hunter S. Thompson. When I first tried to write, I couldn't write. My work, it was so terrible you couldn't read it. And then I found these books I loved, and I said, let me take out my highlighter, and I broke down their strategies. And my writing soared. And the rest, as they say, is history. So, modeling and then mentorship. Do you understand the importance? Do you use mentors? I've always had mentors in my life. People I go to who are experienced in certain things that I'm not, and I choose my mentors wisely. If you believe in modeling and mentorship and have used them in the past and you're committed to it, give yourself a high score. If you're one of these people who never models, you try to figure this shit out on your own, which is really hard to do, modeling turns decades into days. It collapses time, the learning curve. What I'm really doing, just so you know, what I'm going to do now is I'm done with this. We're going to get a score, and I'll explain to you where you stand. I'm hoping to give you models for things. That's the second half of this. I'm going to give you a model of persuasion, and that's the goal here. So, because with a model, it makes it 1,000 times easier to succeed. And the more detailed your model is, the more you have it in all aspects of business, it becomes almost an assurance that you'll succeed. Give yourself a score, and as you're giving yourself a score, I'm going to say this. I would challenge anybody to a verbal death match here to show me a person who scored 100 who's not rich. It would be impossible. If you scored that high, you own this shit, you tell, no, yeah, I know a guy, and he's an expert at state management, he's got these empowering beliefs, he has an unbelievable vision for the future, he focuses on it, he's got the highest of standards, he's a world-class entrepreneur, he's a closer and a half, he can market like no one else's business, and he's got 8 different streams of income, and he's broke. The fuck is that? Is that possible? Yes or no? Not possible. How about this guy? He's an emotional basket case with limiting beliefs up his ass, right? He's got shitty standards, no vision, he focuses on what's wrong all the time. His experience with entrepreneurship is fucking reading the word in a dictionary somewhere. He's scared to sell, he thinks it's evil, he thinks marketing is going to the grocery store, and the only money he makes is from his lousy paycheck. Think that guy's got a lot of money? Now here's the truth. We all fall somewhere in between. So what I want you to do now is everybody, I want you to total up your score, and this is your wealth index. This is where you stand. It's your starting point. It's your wealth index. So total it up. I'll give you a few minutes. For those people who really have a lot of trouble adding, take out your calculator, your iPhone, your Samsung. It shouldn't be that difficult. And for those of you who are under 21, whatever you get on your total, take half of it and add it in. The reason is you haven't been out there to know a lot of this stuff, so you get a bit of a break. This is just, and I'll be honest, it's less indicative. For someone under 25, it's not quite as accurate. I'll just be honest with you. But for someone under 25, you better learn this. It's a gift to learn this stuff now. Over 25, you're a fully formed organism. Okay, you are where you are. So give yourself the score. If you're under 21, give yourself some slack and give yourself 50% added on. And for those of you who don't understand that concept, I'll explain to you what it is. If you scored 45, 46, you take half, which is what? 23, and add them together. Not that hard, you're 69. Just give yourself, because you're young, you don't get it. So everyone give yourself a score. There are 2 types of people in the world, and I'll tell you who they are. On one side of the equation, I got these 4 boards up here for a reason. On one side of the equation, we have what's called reason people. The reason people. And these are the people that will give you all the freaking reasons why they can't succeed. You give me the best idea in the world, so I got to travel somewhere, what's going to cost too much, or if I do it, I'll be away from my family, or people will stop not liking me anymore, maybe I have to sell something. I got to give you fucking reasons why, right? And then on the other side of the equation, you got the results people. Okay? And results people are the ones that just make shit happen. They don't come up with all the reasons why, because they understand that the reasons are mostly just a story. We'll get to that later as well. Let me give you an example about a reason person. This is a great story. I was away on vacation not that long ago at a hotel in San Diego, and people know me wherever I go, and I was there, I was getting a massage, right? So you're all vulnerable on the massage table, right? This woman, she's a very nice lady, and she's massaging me, and then she's like, oh my God, I'm such a fan. She goes, I'm an entrepreneur too. I'm like, oh, okay, that's great. I said, what kind of business are you in? She goes, oh my God, I got these healing shirts. I'm like, really? She goes, yeah. I take these shirts, and I put these healing stones on the 7 chakras, and it makes people feel better. I'm like, okay, I don't believe in this shit. I'm like, wow, it sounds pretty good idea. You've got the woo-woo people who buy this stuff, right? And she was like, oh my God, I got a website, it's all great. I'm making these shirts, I knitted them all, I put them in my thing, I have boxes, the great packaging and label. I said, wow, how much you doing in sales? She goes, oh, I'm not selling any yet. I'm like, why? She's, well, I'm not really a salesperson. You know, I have a friend who's in real estate. They're going to come and all of a sudden, like, blah, blah, the fucking reasons start pouring out about why this person, you get it? She's not a salesperson. That's a loser's mentality. Sales, influence, persuasion, it's an entirely learnable skill. Some people think selling's evil. My parents did. We'll get to that later. Fucking character in the movie, right? My father. But they thought selling was evil. Selling is everything in life. Either you're selling or you're failing. You're selling people that your ideas make sense, your concepts, your products make sense. You're selling your kids to make their beds, do their homeworks. Doesn't matter what you do, what kind of work you're in, you're always trying to convey your thoughts and your ideas in a way that connects with another human being, empowers them, but also gets you what you want to. That's what ethical sales and persuasion is all about. And I have to say, I go around the world, people come up to me all the time, in airports and in restaurants, and they all want to do business with me. But guess what? 95% of them never actually ask me to do business. They dance around it because they're not closers. It's the single most important skill you can ever master, the ability to close the deal. Number one, the first distinction to achieving success, and I talked about it with overwhelm, it's the ability to manage your emotional state, your physiological emotional state. What your state does, okay, it basically is the in-the-moment dictator of performance. In other words, you can be the greatest salesperson in the world. You can have all the skills to sell, but if in the moment, you're in a state of uncertainty and negativity and good luck trying to close a fucking deal. You can have the skills, but the state is your regulator in the moment. It's like an athlete. He can be a world-class athlete, but he's not in flow, he's out of the zone, he's nervous. He can't access his skills. Does that make sense? Yes? Good. Parents in the room, raise your hands. Parents, a lot of parents, right? You love your children. You've probably read the books on parenting, so you know the skill, you know how to parent. But if you walk home, come home from work, and you're feeling impatient, overwhelmed, and no compassion, that's your state, how good of a parent can you be? Not very good. So all the skills that you have, either you can access them by being in what's called an empowered state. So put up here the empowered states. I have a slide here, and I have 4 for you. Okay, you can go to the first 4 states, they're empowered states. Okay, we call them the C's. Certainty, clarity, courage, and confidence. In other words, if you walk around most of the time feeling certain, feeling clear, now put the other states on, the opposite. So the opposite of certainty is uncertainty, clarity is overwhelm, courage, the opposite is fear, then you have confidence versus self-doubt. If you're on the former side, you're in good shape. If you're walking around all day long trying to succeed on the other side of the equation, good luck. Ain't gonna work. Now, just to show you, this cuts also to the personal life, just put the next ones as well. This is now even out of business, just compassion, love, patience, happiness. Now go to the disempowered states. Cruelty, hatred, impatience, misery. Some people spend 90% of their time in the orange states. And people who are succeeding in living empowered lives are spending most of their time in these states. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to get honest for a second here. Please be honest with yourself and don't misscore or elevate. Give yourself a realistic score. Between 1 and 10, 1 means you're a fucking emotional vegetable. Okay? 10 means you really got this shit figured out. And just so you know, I don't mean about being certain all the time. You know what you call someone who's certain, who walks around certain all the time? You know what you call them? An asshole. I'm not talking about that. We're not robots. We have to feel our emotions. I'm talking about in the key moments when it matters most. when you're negotiating a deal, when you're trying to close, when you're talking in like in front of a stage. For me, I don't care what's going on in my life. I could have been miserable 30 minutes ago, but I ain't bringing it out to the game. That's what I mean. So it's not about that you don't feel good or bad. It's in the moment when you need it most, can you do it? Can you trigger a state? Guess what? There's a way to do it. The only thing that stops you from getting what you want in life is the bullshit story you tell yourself of why you can't have it. You get that? What stops you back is the story, because the story stops you from getting honest. And if you can't get honest with yourself, there's no way you can go. Imagine like this, success in sales and life, it's like a roadmap, right? You know where you want to go, and you have this perfect strategy, the straight line to get there. It's a perfect strategy. It's going to get you there every single time. But if you don't know your starting point, if you're not getting honest with where you actually are, it doesn't matter how powerful the strategy is, and it doesn't matter how powerful your goal is. I'm going to ask you to set a goal today, right? A 60-day goal. And let's say you really set this goal, and I'll show you how to do it in a brilliant way. So it's visceral. So it makes you really feel it. And you see it, you sense it, you smell the goal. That's step one. I'm going to teach you the straight line, which is your strategy to get to your goal. But if you're not honest with where you are right now, your starting point, the map is worthless. There's three things that you need to know: where you are, where you want to go, and how you're going to get there. Those are the three things you must have to take advantage of any opportunity. I'm going to give you the strategy. I'm going to ask you to tell me exactly where you want to go for yourself. You got to get honest. Don't blame the boss. Don't blame the leads. Don't blame your job. Don't blame the industry you're in. Just get honest. If you don't like your industry, find another one.
My message is this: there's only one way to get rich, and that's quick. That's not a get-rich-quick scheme, though. Because the world's too expensive to get rich slowly. But what I mean by getting rich quick is that there are certain things you have to know on the inner game of wealth, how you manage your emotional state, your beliefs, your standards, your focus. Then in the outer game, entrepreneurship, sales, marketing, how to develop multiple streams of income. It takes time. That's where the hard work, because a lot of hard work goes into getting this lined up and that lined up. But once you have it all lined up and you've done the work, then you can make money very, very quickly. So it's not a scheme, but you got to get rich quick, and you have to put the work in. I say, if you don't want to work hard, good luck. I mean, I don't know any rich people that don't work really, really hard. That's the bottom line. So hard work and knowing stuff, skills.
There's no quick fix, easy
fix.
It's
not, again, when you get rich, it happens quickly, but there's a lot of work that goes up to that point before the money starts pouring in. That's the distinction that I think a lot of people who are not wealthy, they don't get that. They think that you accumulate money a little bit at a time. It doesn't work that way. You work, don't get the result, and bam, one last piece of the puzzle clicks in, whether it's not knowing how to close, and it all happens quickly.
Also, to really take a longer-term view. Not just, to look 3 months from now, but look 3 years from now, and the future's going to come whether you like it or not, so you want to kind of be one step ahead.
It's a mind game then?
I think it's psychology, and everything, again, most of life comes down to psychology, doesn't it? It starts here, in the internal world. Before you can master the external world, you have to master your own internal world. That's the true secret to success.
My son's 14, he's fabulous, and we're having this conversation about when he plays in sports or when he does something about, do you go full out or do you not? And I see sometimes in him that when he's out on the field or doing something, he doesn't play full out, and he'll have an excuse. Like my leg hurts, or my arm hurts, or something happened, the coach was unfair, whatever, the referee was unfair. And what happens with people is we tend to go out into the world and we look for those sort of excuses about why things aren't the way we want them. And when you do that, you lose all your power in life. When you start focusing on the external, on the excuses, you lose your power. Here's the way people really think. I will tell you, I can go out onto stage and bomb. You go out there and you just bomb, right? And people will respect you for going out there and trying your hardest. It's not how you actually perform that earns you the respect of your peers. It's the fact that you went out and actually did it. That's the difference. So if you're out there right now and you're a new salesperson or you're struggling as a salesperson, there's no embarrassment in the struggle. There's just not. The embarrassment is in quitting. The embarrassment is in not trying your hardest.
Poor people believe they are creatures of circumstance. That means that life happens to them. You get that? While rich people are creators of circumstance. I will tell you this, there is no more destructive belief in the world than to think that life happens to you. Because there's three things that you do when you don't think that you can create your own destiny. I'll tell you exactly what they are, right? Number one, the first thing you do is you play what I call the blame game. You start blaming everybody for why you don't have what you want. You'll blame the government, you'll blame your family, you'll blame your spouse, you'll blame your boss, you'll blame the economy, you'll blame the people on Wall Street, which probably deserve some blame, but you'll blame anybody and everybody when you think the world happens to you. You're powerless. The second thing you do is you justify. It is because the economy stinks. It's because people are unfair to me. It's because money doesn't really matter anyway. Bullshit. You all know that. I live on love alone. Really? Go bring that to the bank and pay the rent. Hello, okay? I love love. I'm in love. I'm the greatest woman in the world. I'm going to get married next year for the third time, unfortunately, but I'm getting married next year. Great woman. So I know that, but money's money, right? They justify. Third, and this is the worst one of all, so write it down in big letters. They complain. I hate these people. You know why? I'll tell you why. Because I do believe in some laws of the universe. I do. And one of them is that what you focus on expands, gets bigger, and what you focus on, you attract because you move towards it. If you're focusing on something, you attract. So here's what happens. When you're complaining, what are you focusing on? All the shit in your life. So guess what happens to you? You become a giant magnet. Get the picture? I don't want to be around because they attracted to you. You got to get away from them because when you hear someone complaining, it might hit you too. And it's the worst of all. That's what complaining does. So if you're a person that believes that you're a creature of circumstance, life happens to you, good luck.